Students, learning, collectivism, marijuana. My guest tonight is a strong advocate of at least three of these things. To find the odd one out, I'm joined by David Barrow, President of the National Union of Students. Now, would it be learning that is the odd one out there?
We generally support learning, yeah.
Okay, so marijuana is...
Yeah, we don't touch that.
Right, that's fine. Now, you are, obviously the National Union of Students is kind of a collective organisation. It's obviously fed into by all the unions of all the unis around Australia, yeah?
Yeah, that's right.
And I guess your basic role is to kind of speak up against like government universities to give students a go.
That's right.
Now, I have to apologise because now that the inquiry's on the scene, I may have got you out of a job. You may be redundant now, so I'm sorry.
Well, you can be the mouthpiece then.
All right, okay. But is there still a job for you to do?
I think so.
All right. So what's your main aims this year?
Well, we started this year, we had a 3-year campaign with the election of the last government, and that was to get rid of domestic undergraduate full fees, which was where you could pay for your enter scores. And we got rid of that in 2007.
But if my dad or uncle is quite rich, shouldn't I deserve anything that I can buy?
No.
All right, just not?
No, well, it undercuts the merit of getting into university. Anyway, that was covered back in 2007.
All right.
So that was a big tick. We've been campaigning for a reform to student income support, and we did quite well with that this year. The Bradley Review, all through 2008, we were part of that, part of the consultations, getting students to put in, what they thought of student poverty issues. And then at budget night, Julie Gillard implemented a whole range of new reviews that will make youth allowance easier to get. There was the issue with the gap year students though, and that was where, because they're removing the workforce eligibility criteria in 1st of January 2010, that kids who finished year 12 in 2008 and started their 18 months of independence would get trapped between the two policies. And
they could just maybe work for another year. I mean, if anything, just savings. They could go overseas for a bit. I don't. What if? I guess part of it was that student income support, obviously getting the government to give students a bit more money. One of the lines there was that 1 out of 8 students regularly miss a meal. I sometimes miss second breakfast, and come lunchtime, I'm really craving that caviar. Is that the kind of message we should be getting to the government to kind of really lobby them?
Not generally second breakfast, but first breakfasts or a meal. The issues with student poverty are pretty intense, and there were 2 challenges for the government. One was structural change of youth allowance, and the other was actually adding more money to youth allowance as a whole. So what the government has done is shuffled the money around and put it into low SES families, so students from poor backgrounds first. That's where the money's going first, and then it's tapering off as people's parents earn more. So they've done that, the structural change, but now they actually need to put more money into the system so that no matter where you are in Australia, you can go to university.
So they basically just go on, look, we're going to use the same pool of money, but just give it to less people.
To give it to more people, but in less amounts.
Less amounts, so that's actually just spreading it. So doesn't that have less of an effect if more people are getting less money?
Well, what they've done is they've taken away the gap year provision, so you can no longer work to get youth allowance.
All right. So you can sit at home and get work allowance.
Well, your parents' income is now the crucial issue. So it used to be very, very difficult to get youth allowance through the parental dependency test. So if you were still dependent on your parents, it would be very hard for you to get youth allowance. Now they've made it easier so that kids who come from poor families can get better access to youth allowance, but there's no gap year provision. So you can't go out and work for 18 months at 15 hours a week.
Yeah, to try and prove that you're actually independent.
That's right, you can't do that anymore, which is bad for rural and regional kids.
Yeah, cool. All right, so you've got the big kind of banner campaign, Demand a Better Future. Now tell me, is that a bit rude? Really, shouldn't it be ask politely for a better future, but if that's a bit too much trouble, then perhaps we'll just leave it for now?
No, we like to say things quite upfront.
All right, so what kind of better future are you demanding?
Well, look, we want a better future where anyone in Australia, no matter what their age or where they're from, can go and get a higher education if they choose to bring out their fullest potential. And it's good for the individual, it's good for the community, and it's good for the economy.
All right, so now we've obviously got VSU, is kind of voluntary student unionism. Now that you go to a university, you don't have to pay to be a member of your union. You don't have the several $100s. Isn't that good? Because now students have more money in their pockets for, gum and lollies.
What actually happened when they introduced VSU was 2 things. For small and regional campuses, like places like Ballarat, Rockhampton, Cairns, a lot of the services just disappeared completely.
Right, so the lolly shops are gone now. They can't
lolly
even buy the
shops,
lollies.
legal service, childcare, all gone.
Right, so we're trying to bring that back in so that we've got more services for students.
Well, that's right. And in the cities, what happened was the universities took money out of teaching and learning and put it into student support services. But a lot of those deals have got sunset clauses, and that's coming to an end. So what we're going to see is that the university experience will be degraded in the future unless they do something.
Right.
What the government,
so we're going for more lollipop shops. Lolly shops on campus.
Well, it's everything from sport and cultural, but also we actually argue against because we actually want representation in there as well.
Right. Well, David Barrow, thank you so much for joining me on the program, trying to explain the very complex process of students living a better life. So thank you so much for joining me on the program today.